What's up, FireTEKies? Today what we're going to do is get into doing sequences as our equipment knows it as, or building groups in Pyroignition Control. And what this is going to do, this is going to allow you to send the information to the FTKontrok app on your Android, or if you don't own a remote, you will be able to fire sequences right from your module without having to spend the money for the remote. You can also add sequences to a remote and fire them that way. So let's do a quick overview on how to do a sequence in here. The equipment sees it as sequences, but you're actually going to build in Pyroignition Control, you're going to build groups. Sequences is actually a different monster that you'll use more in if you're doing a pyro musical, but the equipment sees it as a sequence. When you fire it, it's going to say sequence. So that's kind of, I was confused when it came out because they were saying build sequences. I'm like, no, when you build a sequence, it doesn't work that way. So we're going to build groups. So the main thing you're going to use is this little plus right here. Don't worry about anything else over here. That is going to bring up this little window right here. Everything else on here is pretty self-explanatory. That's going to be your slave ID. Since we will send you this program, it's already pre-done to have the correct rails and the correct queues in here, so you don't have to search all over here. Break time, how long something lasts, or no, break time is when something breaks in the air. Duration, how long it lasts, and delay, so your launch time. So if you want something to break at 5 seconds and you're shooting a 3-inch shell, you need to shoot it 3 seconds early so it gets up there and breaks. Most of this we're not going to use for sequences because they're instantaneous. This is all self-explanatory. You can add all this. You can actually build a database, which is easy. You just fill this stuff out, hit plus, and it fills all this stuff in. So every time you click this guy right here, you don't have to add all this in. You do all the work ahead of time. Write down everything you bought, if you're doing shells, cakes, or whatever, and then all you have to do is click it once. It'll load everything in here, and you don't have to keep doing it. It makes it a little bit easier. So this is what we're going to do. Let me get out of this. So we're going to hit this one time. This is going to bring this up. We're going to save it, and you're going to bring down here. Now, like I said before, when we're doing sequences, ignition time, break time, duration, we're really not going to worry about that. That's more pyro musical stuff. For a simple sequence, you're basically going to press a button on your module, press a button on your Android device or on your remote, and it's just going to fire it. You're not going to wait. You're not going to need a break time or anything to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple of these on here. So I'm just going to click this. Now instead of coming down here and save, if you hit your enter key, it enters it in, so that saves a little time. So I hit plus enter, plus enter, plus enter, plus enter, plus enter, plus enter, and everything stays the same, except as you're going, it automatically changes your output. So if you do it 12 times, 20 times, after 12 it'll jump to 2-1, 2-2, 2-3. So to do a group or sequence, what we need to do is you're going to right click on the first one that we added here, and we'll go over all this stuff in other videos. So group, we want to make this a group, so we have to create a group, not add to single. We don't need any of this. We're going to create. So anytime you create a group, it's going to put it to the bottom. And then we'll go in and change this around later. This automatically adds this. Right click, group. Let's put this one in a group 2. So I'm going to create a group. And it's automatically going to go to 2. Right click, we're going to go to group, create a group, and we're going to do 3. Let's do one more. Let's create a group, group 4. Now, in each one of these groups, I wanted to do 2 things. Let's say today we're going to fire module 1 and module 2, and I wanted to fire the first queue, rail 1, Q1 off of each one for this sequence. So I threw these in up here. Let's right click. We're going to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add to group. It's going to say, what group do you want to go to? So I want to add this to 1. So let's add it 1. Okay. And what that does is adds to 1. I want to do the same with this. I want to go to group, add this to group, or we want to add this to 2. 2, group, add to group, 3. Okay. Let's go to group 4. Add to group number 4. Okay. So basically this is what it's going to look like when you're finished. If I wanted 10 elements of group 1, it just have 10 elements. If it had 3 of 2, you just add them. So I come up in here. I don't need any of this stuff. I'm going to throw it in here. Then I can add that to number 1. Let's go to number 4. We're going to throw this in 4. Add to group. We want it in group 4. So now group 4 has that many elements. Now what I have learned is you cannot put ignition times in for number 1. You can, but as you add stuff, it goes to 0, 0. So if you're going to want more ignition times, you will add more elements to that grouping to where the later ones will fire it. So if you want it here to have this one fire a little bit later, this one fire a little bit later, do that one. But your very first one on each one of the groupings needs to be 0. So keep that in mind. So honestly, now you can take this and send this out to your module, Android device, remote, and it'll actually fire this. And that's honestly all you need to do to make groups. So what I can do is I don't want this at 1.8. I want this 1 and 2. I want this at 3 and 4. I want this, let's see, 5 and 6, but I want these at separate slaves. So let's do that. So let's right click. Well, actually, no. Let's double click on our left. Double clicking on our left brings us up. So our first one here, we want output 1, 1 on slave run. No change. 1, 1, slave run. Double left click, we're going to put 2 in here. 1, 1, save. Let's do 1, 2, and 1, 2 for this guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to 1, 2 for slave 1, and 1, 2 double left for slave 2, and save it. So there we go, slave 1, 1, 1, and you can do that for group 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just add your group. Crap, I forgot. I need a group 5. Come in here. We'll just throw it in here so we have something. Right click. We're going to come down to our groups. We're going to create another group that puts in as 5. And you can leave one thing in a group because you can have single events, but you have to have them in a group. You cannot leave them in this form for this to fire them. It will not recognize it. It will fire, like I said, the equipment sees it as sequences, but this sees it as groups. It will not fire it unless it is in this form. So you can have 10 or 20 of these in here. If you want to fire one thing, create a single group the way this is and fire it that way. So this is ready to go. If I send this over, which we'll show you in a bit, it'll fire whatever I have on here. It might double fire stuff because I've got it in here twice, but it's going to fire that. So that's how you do your two-piece group, a single group, a 3, or like I said, we can add a bunch more to that. And let me show you a quick way. Say you have a fan rack and you want to shoot a sequence of 12 shots, 12 single shots in a fan rack, half a second apart. So instead of having to right click and delete, what I found is highlight one, hold your shift button down, and then click these and it fills everything up, and then you can delete instead of having to do one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. So let's do this. We got our rack, we got a bunch of singles we want to shoot, so we're going to do this. We're going to bring our first one here. Let's right click. Let's throw this into a group. We got to create a group first. So there's a group number 1. So a very quick way to do this, instead of having to click this 12 times and get everything out here, right click on add X ignitions. So we're going to add X ignitions. So that's basically how many ignitions do you want. So we're going to right click on that. That's going to bring up queues to set. So since this always has to be 0, I want to shoot 12 queues. You only put in 11. It always leaves 1 on here. So if you want to shoot 5, you add 4. If you want to shoot 3, you put in 2. Amount of queues to set. I want a total of 12, so let's put in 11. We're going to hit OK. Now ignition times. I want these to go in at half a second each. So this guy right here, let's put this. This is 1, so that's 1 second. So 10 seconds, a minute. So if I want a half a second, we are going to make that a 0. We're going to make that a 5, a half a second. Add ignitions. When I hit that, that is, here's our start. That's going to put it all on slave 1. That is going to, here's our zeros all the way across. So our very first one, when we hit that sequence, 1 1 0 0, and then here it added our ignition times, half a second, second, 1.5, all the way up to 12. So when you hit that rack, it's going to hit your single shots, and this way or however you want to do them, pre-program. It all goes down. And if you wanted to, you can change the times on these individually, or if you wanted to change the slave, if you wanted to change what output you started, you do that before you do your ignitions, because then if you want to change now, let's see if she'll do it. Slave ID 2, save. It only changed this one, and you'll have to go and do each one separately. So you want to know where you want to start. So let's do that. Get out of that, right click. We're going to go into add X ignitions. Or no, we got to, here, let's do this first. Come on, double left. Where you want slave 2. We want to start this on 2 1. So slave 2 2 1 is when I want this next group to start. All right, we got to put that in a group also. So group, create group. We'll put it down over here. You can create group first. It doesn't really matter. So now in our group 2, so our controller and mod recognize it. We want to start 2 2 1, and I want to do a 12 sweep on there. Right click, go into our add X ignitions, 11, because I want a total of 12, 11. Okay, let's do 1 second off each. We'll hit 1, and boom. Group 2, we're starting on 2 1. Slaves are all 2, and then it puts in all our ignitions. And there you go. There's our 2 sequences. Now, that's not long. You're probably going to have way more sequences than that, but you can have, like we showed before, sequence, or let's call it group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, however many you want. I think you can have like 90 or so, but I'm not sure. So let's go ahead and show you guys on how to make some timings in groups if you do want to do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these guys. Shift that out of here. Let's select all this stuff and get rid of it so we can see it a little bit easier. Push the delete button, all gone. Alright, let's start with this guy. So I'm going to add a couple more timings in this. I'll just throw that in here. Plus, throw that in here. Alright, let's put this on 1, how we did before. We're going to add a group. Let's go to 1. Right click, left, add to group. Go to group 1. Okay. Alright, so now I do want some timings. So I'm going to make this guy, oh, wrong one. Double left. We're going to make this 1, 1. We'll make this guy, okay. Make this guy 1, 2. Okay, make this guy 1, 3. And make this guy 1, 4. And you can do this in any configuration that you want. So if we do want to add timings, just do like we would. Make sure this one stays at 0 since you're in your group here. If you do a single one, say I want to add, let's do slave since we're on 1, save, and we add another group. Create group. This guy wants to say 0, so that's going to go as soon as you push the button. If you do want to have a couple timings, go ahead and in here and change the timing. So when I want this to shoot, we're going to do break time. We're not going to do duration or delay. We're just going to throw this in break time. So I want this 5 seconds in to go. So we're going to make this 5 seconds in. And when you do, it's going to jump down here. Why does this jump down here and throw off your grouping, or however you want to call that? Because it always puts the least amount of time on top. So now we got 1, 3 jump down here. So I want my second one. So 1, 1's going to stay there. That's going to go at 5 seconds. Let's say I want 1, 2 to go at 3 seconds. So we're going to come over here, make it 3, enter, and that put that right in front of that. So our 1, 4 is still shorter time, so I want 4 to go last. So we're going to make 4, double left, we're going to put it at 6 seconds. So we're going to come over here, make it 6. It's actually 6.5, so that dropped it down to the bottom. So when you get into this, it's gonna keep messing stuff up because like, whoa, why did it put down at the bottom? It's gonna be by time, and since there is no, I'm going by ignition, is that we're changing break time. But since there is no delay is when do I need to fire this, and then when's it gonna break. So when you put your delay in here, I'm shooting a 3-inch shell. I want to break at 5 seconds. It's going to be a 3-inch or a 3-second delay. This is going to shoot it at 2 seconds. So it's basically break time. But since in your group, you're going to probably not be shooting anything with a delay time. Or if you want to put it in that too. From my experience, groups usually don't go like that. You'll get that in more of the pyro musical part. So that's how you do it. You add your times in here. Make sure that stays at 1. See if we can change this single one to a break time. We'll see, well, 5 seconds, save. Nothing, because that one always has to be enter. Nothing. It's always got to be 0, so you can't add it in there. Now, if you're doing a show and you don't want anything to shoot off on output 1, 1, the easiest thing to do is don't connect anything to that. If you do want it to start 3 seconds after you push the button because you're timing something, just don't land anything on your first output channel. I know you're getting rid of, you're not using all your channels. You might want to use all 48 of them, but that's just how it works. So that's it. Now the next step is transferring it to your remote or your module, which will have separate videos for that. This video is already long enough, and we're just covering on how to do sequences this time. So that's it. I appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe and stay safe out there.